there was 196 media partners carefully redacting the cables until David Lee and Luke Harding published the password in their book. Okay? After that, the secrecy site, the anti-secrecy site, Krypton, a New York site, published the entire cables. The first publications of the Iraq War and Afghan war files were done on Monday by the New York Times, Der Spiegel and The Guardian. The accusation of aiding and abetting was given to Chelsea Manning at her trial, and she was acquitted of aiding and abetting. Another abuse of process in this procedure inside here. These abuses of process have bedeviled the last 10 years. In the Swedish case, falsification of witness testimony, as well as the resistance of the prosecutor to further the case. They are held under this regulation of procedure to further the case. After 10 years of investigation, 10 years, the case was dropped. There were 4 prosecutors and so on. You know it all. It only took 8 years to put a man on the moon. 10 years. The last element is the accusation against Julian of assisting and aiding abetting Chelsea Manning. In fact, at her trial, Chelsea spoke of her motivations and her conscious and deliberate reaching out to Julian and WikiLeaks. She spoke of it at her trial, that she reached out to WikiLeaks and made contact in order to leak the files because they concerned themselves with injustices and war crimes. That's the truth of the matter. 10 years of ceaseless persecution, smearing, calumnies, distortions of procedure, malfeasances, misfeasances, destruction of email trails in the Crown Prosecuting Service, destruction of email trails in the Swedish Prosecuting Authority. There you have it. It culminates here today in an attempt by the Trump administration to completely intimidate and oppress journalists and the reportage of journalists so that we can have discussions between ourselves over who we will support or what reality or what actuality confronts us. I thank you for being here, and I reckon we'll win this. Thank you. What's at stake? For Julian, his life. For you guys, any prestige that you can gather as a journalist protects you. So this will be the end. Nobody ever again will be able to get the assistance of 100,000 people worldwide to defend them, 100 lawyers, 6 jurisdictions in order to defend Julian Assange. It'll never happen again. If he goes down, so will journalism. Yes, that was discussed in the abuse, the surveillance of Julian, which was ceaseless. You know, they have videos of me having Christmas dinner with him, talking about children and girlfriends and the mothers of our children. So they proposed that to leave the door unlocked to Julian, to the embassy, and people would come in and kidnap Julian. Or they proposed to poison Julian. every file, every video and audio file was packaged up and flown by David Morales, the head of UC Global, and taken to the United States and given to the CIA. This is appalling. It's just appalling.
His medical state at the moment, and suicidal thoughts and depression.
Oh, I don't speak about that because I get a bit upset. You know, if you can leave that out, I'll answer any other question you've got going. One doesn't like to speak about one's children being sick. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Thanks for staying throughout the day. We would have arranged better weather for you if we could. We're very confident that this has been a very strong first day for Julian's defence. We thought it would be a harder day than this. We thought the Americans would have more of a case than they've got, but we are very pleased to say that we think that Ed Fitzgerald, Julian's QC, did a barnstorming attack on the Trump administration and the political motivation behind this trial this afternoon. We've got some people from the legal team and from WikiLeaks to explain more about that to you. First, I'd like to welcome Barry Pollock, who's Julian Assange's American lawyer.
Today, the United States took the remarkable position that any journalist anywhere in the world can be subject to extradition to the United States for publishing truthful information. This is extraordinary. It is unprecedented. It is the exact position the Obama administration decided could not be taken consistent with the First Amendment. And I am confident that at the end of the day, this court will not accept that proposition. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Barry. And now Jen Robinson from the legal team here in London.
Today we've heard in court the defence case. WikiLeaks has published evidence of war crimes, human rights abuse and corruption the world over. It's for this that Julian Assange sits in a high security prison facing 175 years in prison in the United States. As you've heard today, this case is an abusive process. It's an abusive process and it's a political offence. He's charged with a political offence, its substance is political, the nature of the charge is political, and the entire process which he has faced since the CIA director announced that WikiLeaks is a hostile non-state intelligence agency and that he won't benefit from First Amendment protections, that this is a political prosecution. We've also heard in court today the mistreatment that he will suffer if he's returned to the United States. The evidence before the court shows that WikiLeaks has published information in the public interest, has undertaken harm minimisation procedures to protect that information, just like the rest of the mainstream media. This is an unprecedented attack on free speech, and an unprecedented attack that could be used against the rest of the media. Thank you.
And finally, as you know, this is, penultimately, as you know, this is an international case that involves evidence coming from a parallel case in Spain about spying on Julian Assange and indeed on his legal team. So I'm very glad that Baltasar Garzón is here from that case to have a talk to you as well.
Buenas tardes. En España se sigue la investigación en la que está quedando probado y manifiesto que la compañía de seguridad que daba vigilancia y custodiaba la embajada de Ecuador en Londres ha espiado a favor de los servicios de inteligencia norteamericanos a Julian Assange, a sus abogados defensores, entre los que yo me encuentro, así como a las distintas personalidades. Todo ha sido grabado de una forma absolutamente invasiva para la intimidad, colocación de micrófonos, colocación de vídeos, todo esto está quedando probado ante la justicia española y también está siendo presentado en este momento de la extradición. Lo que está en juego es la libertad de expresión y por contra la imposición desde Estados Unidos del secreto de los servicios de inteligencia. Creemos que está demostrado, y así se probará en esta extradición, que hay una clara persecución política para Julian Assange. Gracias.
Thank you very much. And now Christian Halvorsen, who's the editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks, will give you his impressions of the first day of the trial.
I've spoken to you here outside before, but just summing up the day. This morning the US government and the Crown Prosecution Service, working on its behalf, presented nothing new, nothing we haven't heard from 10 years. It did not ring true 10 years ago, this accusation about bringing harm, with exposing the war crimes, the wrongdoing in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and Guantanamo Bay. It's an allegation that did not hold any truth 10 years ago, and it certainly doesn't hold any truth today. And it's a propaganda tactic to draw attention from the fact that WikiLeaks exposed harm, serious war crimes, killing of journalists, killing of innocent civilians. It was very empty to have this argument presented. Nothing new, I say. On the contrary, this afternoon, the defense put forth compelling evidence and arguments why this extradition should be denied and thrown out. It's a very politicized case, it was argued. We saw that under the Obama administration there was an attempt to look into the fact to actually bring indictment against Julian. They came to the conclusion there was not a possibility, it would be against the First Amendment in the United States. Under Trump, things changed. We saw how the Attorney General started attacking WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. Mike Pompeo, then CIA Director, branding WikiLeaks a hostile intelligence agency, and we knew what was coming. We also saw that the spying in the Ecuadorian embassy on behalf of US intelligence, we now know, was a very serious breach of privileged communication between a client and a lawyer, which is, of course, in itself an argument of dismissal here. We already heard that there will be evidence presented here that people who were working indirectly for the intelligence community in the US, the CIA probably, really got enough when they heard speculations that by request from across the ocean they might look into other options than just spying on Julian, leaving a door open a venue for kidnapping out of the embassy. There were even discussions about poisoning him. So all this coming together, one leaves after this day one optimistic that if there's any justice in this country, the judge can only come to one conclusion at the end of the day and deny this extradition. Thank you.
Okay, finally, to speak to you, we're very glad that this court case is being observed by a number of embassy officials from across Europe and a number of parliamentarians from across Europe. We're very pleased to welcome to speak to you Seven Dadlam and Heike Henkel, who are here from Germany.
Yeah, good afternoon. We are members of German Bundestag, and we were already able to visit Julian Assange personally in the embassy of Ecuador in London in 2018, and we are monitoring now the extradition trial starting from October. And now we listen today to the US side. They focus fully on ordinary criminality, and they try to keep any kind of political prosecution, political offense away from this extradition trial. And the defense of course spoke about the opposite, and they showed that it's a totally political case, of course. And they spoke about that in 2013, for example, the Obama administration stopped investigations in the case because they said if we start investigations against WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, we have to prosecute all journalists. So it's about being journalists, the role of journalism, of whistleblowers, and of course for us this is a totally political case, and therefore we ask for of course to leave Assange free.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to explain why is it so important to have international parliamentarian observers in United Kingdom. Normally we would say United Kingdom is a rule of law, and therefore it's nothing problematic with this case. But it's not, in fact, the case here with Julian Assange. We are very much concerned in Germany, especially in the German parliament, that the rule of law is not set up here in this case, Julian Assange. Therefore, we are here as observers because we are concerned about the medical health of Julian Assange. We are concerned about the conditions Julian and his legal team have to prepare themselves for this case. But at the end of the first day, we have to say, after 3 hours of hearing the prosecution and 2 hours of the defense, we are optimistic. The defense is very well structured, very well organized, and we couldn't see it on the side of the prosecution that they are well prepared, despite of the fact that there is a whole imperium behind this prosecution. We as members of the parliament, we will follow this case this week and in May, and for example the instances after that, because we are, as I said, we are very much concerned if the rule of law in this case will exist, and we are concerned that the human rights of Mr. Assange are injured and not respected at all. Thank you. Where's John?
We're here from Reporters Without Borders, and we are conducting an unprecedented international trial and monitoring mission to the UK for this case. What we saw today, frankly, was not surprising and has simply reinforced our position in this case. We very much believe that Mr. Assange was targeted for his contributions to public interest reporting, that his persecution has extremely worrying implications for journalism and press freedom internationally. And we were concerned to hear the approach by the prosecution and believe that he would face political proceedings if extradited to the United States. So we reinforce our call on the UK not to comply with that extradition request and for him to be released.
And I'm here for Reporters Without Borders in Germany, just to make clear, because it's really an international case. It's not only a case which is taking place at a UK court, but a case which sets a really precedent for globally journalism, and that's why it's really important to shed a light on what here. And I think what was especially interesting today, I mean, that there was no further proof for the offences made. There was said by the US nothing really new, and I mean what sheds a light, at least, that the judge highlighted very much with questions, that at least Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights maybe has a potential. I think that's why actually what the defense presented today very much is underlined by Reporters Without Borders, and I mean we keep on fighting for freedom of Assange, and I mean that's why we are here, and that's why we will be here in May, and that's why we will be here this whole week.
I'm Rebecca Vincent. I'm the UK Bureau Director for Reporters Without Borders, and Christian Meyer, he's our Germany Director for Reporters Without Borders. And we can do individual comments too if that's of interest. Thank you.
All right.
Okay guys, that's it. Same time, same place tomorrow. Better weather.
C'est bien parce que là ça tourne parce qu'on ne peut pas comprendre.